Have you ever noticed that some women, even past the age of 60, can simply walk into a quiet cafe or show up at a small gathering, and the entire atmosphere gently shifts? No one says anything, no one points it out, but somehow the eyes in the room, especially those of the men, naturally follow them. They are not wearing flashy outfits. They are not overly made up. They are not even trying to flash a big smile. They just appear. And in some unspoken way, people feel drawn to them, a kind of quiet magnetism that feels real effortless and hard to explain. I used to think that in order to be attractive, a woman had to be young, slender, and dressed provocatively. But it is not like that. After years of observation and personal experience, I realized something. True allure does not come from your age or your hairstyle. It comes from how you choose the things that feel right for the woman you are today. And one of the simplest yet most powerful of those things is the pair of pants you wear. It might sound strange, but trust me, the right pair of pants can change how you feel the moment you step out the door. It does more than fit your body. It supports your posture, it softens your movements, it helps you stand taller, feel more confident, and most importantly, feel like yourself. And when you feel at ease with who you are, men, they notice, instantly. Not because you are trying to impress them, but because you naturally radiate self-assurance. In today's video, I want to share with you 4 styles of pants that not only help you look more elegant and graceful, but also make men turn their heads in a very different way. Not the way that says, look at her, but the way that says, who is she? With depth, with respect, and a quiet sense of admiration. And stay with me until the final style, because that one, believe it or not, is not expensive, does not require a perfect body, but can elevate your presence in just a few minutes of wearing it. Trust me, you deserve to feel that again. That feeling when one piece of clothing makes you stand taller, smile a little more, and think to yourself, I am still beautiful, in my very own way. Style number 1. The straight leg pants, a symbol of steadiness. The first pair of pants I truly loved was a pair of cream-colored straight leg trousers. I wore them to a parent-teacher meeting when my child entered 10th grade. That day, I had no intention of making an impression. I just wanted to wear something that felt comfortable, not tight, no need to constantly adjust, and nothing that showed my belly. I chose those pants, paired with a simple white blouse, and walked into the meeting like any other parent. Then while I was speaking with the teacher, a young father nearby, someone I did not know at all, suddenly turned to me and said, "You look like a professor in those pants, but still beautiful." I was a little surprised, then smiled quietly, not because it was the best compliment I had ever received, but because I knew at that moment I had chosen right. Straight leg pants give you balance. They do not cling to every flaw, and they are not baggy to the point of looking sloppy. They have structure, they have discipline, and they give the person wearing them, regardless of height or size, a sense of presence. It is like the stance of an old bamboo tree, flexible but never fragile. Perhaps that is why when I wear them, I no longer feel the need to prove anything. I just need to be present, and that in itself is enough to make people look twice. There is something fascinating I have noticed after wearing straight-leg pants many times. People, especially men, often do not express their thoughts out loud, but they look. They linger a little longer. They pay attention to how you walk into a room, how you sit down, how you stand back up. And that posture, the one shaped by these pants, makes them see you as worth noticing. Not because you fit into some beauty standard, but because you carry a sense of steadiness in your gait, in your eyes, in your presence. I once wore those pants to a television interview. No heavy makeup, no fancy outfit, just cream straight-leg trousers and a soft gray-blue silk blouse. The young host gently asked me, "What do you do?" You seem so polished, but not too formal. I believe that is exactly what these pants offer. They do not make you seem distant, but they never let you look careless either. They place you exactly where you belong, as a grown woman self-aware who does not need too many colors to stand out. I used to favor skinny jeans, thinking they would elongate my legs. But the truth is, after 50, what we need is not to look longer. What we need is to stand firm. And a pair of straight-leg pants made from slightly thick fabric with a relaxed cut and no tight waistline is the very first piece you should try if you want to reclaim your posture, your aura, and that sense of being truly present. Style number 2, culottes. Freedom with a touch of grace. I know many people still feel a bit hesitant about culottes. They think these pants are too wide, too baggy, like a skirt that is not quite a skirt, or pants that are not quite pants. But if you find the right culottes, made from soft linen with a mid-high waist and gently flowing legs, I promise you will fall in love with them just as I did. One weekend morning, I was sitting at my usual cafe wearing pale gray culottes and an olive green linen top. I sat reading a book. No makeup, no filter. A young barista, probably in his early 20s, brought my coffee and softly asked, "Ma'am, may I ask what style you're wearing? You look so effortlessly gentle." I did not have a clear answer, because for me it was not about style. It was about a feeling. I wore those pants not to be admired, but because they made me feel free, unrestrained. And most of all, I did not have to hold in my stomach all day long. Culottes give you room to breathe, to move, and strangely enough, that sense of ease brings out a very different kind of allure. Not the kind that reveals, not the kind that tries, just a quiet, calm magnetism that comes from being fully at home in your own body. I once wore those culottes on an autumn afternoon walk. The air was crisp, the sunlight slipped through tree leaves at an angle. As I waited at a crosswalk, an older gentleman walked by and nodded gently. He said nothing, but I could feel something in his gaze, something peaceful, quiet, and kind. Maybe he did not notice my outfit, but I am certain he felt the serenity it gave me. There was another time I went to a small group meeting. Everyone else was dressed quite formally, slacks, dress shirts, leather shoes. I showed up in caramel culottes and a fitted cream tee. As I walked in, a female colleague smiled and said, "You look like you're on vacation," but still totally in the vibe. And I thought, that is exactly why I wear culottes. They make people feel you are light, but never careless. I used to wear tight jeans, only to end up feeling squeezed, uncomfortable, and restless. But with culottes, I walk softly, sit freely, and most of all, I feel like I have a certain flow, a kind of grace that belongs to grown women light, but with weight, gentle, but grounded. Once I even paired culottes with a mandarin collar shirt and delicate sandals. No makeup, no jewelry. And yet it felt as if the whole world slowed down just a little as I walked past. Not because I stood out, but because I was so completely at ease within myself. That is what culottes bring. Softness but not fragility. Roominess but not looseness. Freedom but never sloppiness. You can wear culottes to work, to brunch, to the market. Even to meditate, read, or simply take a slow stroll along the sidewalk. These pants never ask you to shrink. Quite the opposite. They open your posture, open your heart, and give you permission to simply be your most elegant, effortless self. Style number 3, neutral-colored pants, when color speaks for you. There was a time I met up with an older friend at a small gathering. She is 7 years older than me. Back in the day, she loved deep crimson reds, burnt oranges, colors as bold and fiery as her personality once was. But that day, she wore light sand-colored pants, a beige t-shirt, and earthy brown loafers. Everything she wore was quiet. And yet she was the first person everyone looked at. She sat very still, spoke very gently. But whenever she spoke, the entire room seemed to pause. Not because her clothes were flashy, but because the colors she chose seemed to whisper something deep and personal. They pulled me in, and I could not look away. Not because she was trying to impress, but because she had that quiet, ripened presence that lingered. That was when I realized neutral colors are never bland. They are the hues of those who have lived. People who no longer need to shout, but are still unmistakably present. After the age of 55, wearing bold colors often feels like trying too hard. Wearing dark colors too often makes us look older. But tones like cream, ash gray, moss green, stone brown, or soft sand, they offer the perfect balance. Subtle but not faded, calm but never invisible. I once had a pair of pale olive green pants, soft as silk. Every time I wore them, I felt like I was wrapped in a quiet harmony between nature and maturity. I paired them with a simple white blouse and tan leather slip-ons. That day, I visited an old friend I had not seen in years. When she opened the door, she said, "Wow, you look like you just stepped out of a vintage novel." I could not tell if she was teasing or complimenting me, but I knew for sure I was wearing exactly what matched my mood that day. Color is not just for looking good. Color tells stories. Stories of quiet mornings, of unhurried footsteps, of days when you do not need to stand out to be remembered. Neutral colored pants let you melt into a space without ever disappearing in it. In fact, you become visible in a different way, the way of someone who does not try to shine but ends up shining anyway. I once wore ash gray trousers to a parent-teacher conference with a light beige sweater, my hair tied up, no accessories. After the meeting, a young teacher walked over and said, "You remind me of those women in European films, quiet, but I want to listen to you." I smiled, but inside I understood. Sometimes a well-chosen pair of pants can say more than a whole conversation. Men often, without knowing, are drawn to quietness. They may not describe the color you wear, but they feel it. A woman in neutral-colored pants often gives them a sense of peace, approachability, and a certain kind of allure, the kind that feels grown steady, real. You do not have to wear bright colors to be noticed. You just need to wear something that softens you, that makes you feel a little lighter. And neutral-colored pants do exactly that. Style number 4, high-waisted pants. When the waist defines your grace. I used to believe that my lower belly was something I needed to hide as carefully as possible. After having children, that part of my body never really flattened out again. So I always wore tops long enough to cover my hips. I would stare into the mirror, eyes fixed on my belly, and whisper to myself, "Nothing I wear will look right as long as this still shows." But one day I tried on a pair of high-waisted pants. They had a soft waistline, not tight or constricting, just gently fitted with the waistband, sitting a bit above my navel. And the most unexpected thing happened. I felt upright, not just standing taller, but feeling taller. Something about the way the waist held me, it made me stop trying so hard to suck in my stomach. My shoulders relaxed. My neck elongated. My steps became slower, but more sure, and in that moment I realized it wasn't the pants that made my body look better. They simply helped me return to my natural posture, the posture of a woman who has lived through so much and still chooses to stand tall. That day I wore those high-waisted jeans to the grocery store, a soft cotton tee, hair tied back. I wasn't trying to look fashionable. But while I was picking out vegetables, an older woman passed by and said quietly, "That's a smart choice of pants. You look younger somehow." I smiled, didn't say much, but inside I felt an unexpected joy. Not because she said I looked young, but because the pants didn't just fit my figure. They fit my state of mind. High-waisted pants with little details and off-center button, subtle pleats, a soft waist tie. They aren't just trendy. They're a quiet way of saying I still have shape, I still have style, I still respect myself. After 55, the waist is no longer our strongest feature. But when you find the right pants, you can turn what once felt like a flaw into a source of grace. I own a pair of coffee brown high-waisted trousers. The fabric is firm but not stiff. The front pleats rise from the waistband up past the navel. Even without heels, they make my legs look longer, my stance more elegant. I once wore those pants to a college reunion. While chatting with friends, an old classmate, a man I used to work on group projects with, stared at me for a moment and said, "You look like a professor, someone who teaches something peaceful." I laughed quietly. I didn't deny it, because I think it was true. Not the professor part, but the energy the pants helped create together with the years that shaped my presence. Men don't often say, "That's a great high-waisted pant," but they'll notice how you sit, how you turn, how your upper body flows as you move. And when your waist is gently defined, your whole posture opens up with it effortlessly. That's the kind of beauty that doesn't strain. That's the kind of allure that doesn't try too hard. That's confidence without needing to explain. You don't need a wasp waist. You just need a pair of pants that respects the body you have today. And a high-waisted design with subtle, thoughtful details does more than flatter your figure. It elevates the very spirit you've spent decades shaping. The part of you that knows who you are, where you stand, and that, yes, you absolutely deserve to wear something that helps you stand taller in body and in soul. So we've just walked through a small journey, starting with the structured elegance of straight-leg pants, moving into the relaxed grace of culottes, then flowing into the quiet depth of neutral tones, and ending at the waist, that part of the body we once tried so hard to hide, now gently embraced after years of being a mother, a wife, a woman of many roles. And somewhere along the way, we learned to love our bodies again, just as they are today. You see, we don't have to chase fashion. We only need to find that version of ourselves that feels the most comfortable, the most confident, and the most effortlessly beautiful. And sometimes that does not begin with buying something new, but by simply looking into our closet and choosing the one pair of pants that helps us stand a little taller, breathe a little easier, and smile a little softer when we catch our reflection. Because in the end, elegance is not about age or pant size. It's about presence. And presence, you cannot fake it with makeup, borrow it from someone else, or memorize it from a book. It comes from within, from the fullness of everything you've lived through, from choosing kindness, choosing calm, and most of all, choosing to love yourself, one day at a time. If you're 55, 60, or beyond, and you've ever had the thought, "It doesn't matter what I wear anymore as long as it's clean," then I want to gently invite you to shift that thought just once. Not to impress anyone, but to remind yourself that you still deserve to feel beautiful, to feel graceful, and to be seen especially by men, not because you tried to catch their eye, but because you are deeply unapologetically yourself. And if this video made you smile or simply reminded you of one pair of pants, maybe worn on a quiet afternoon walk or during a moment alone in front of the mirror, the one that made you feel the most, then I'd love to hear your story. Leave me a comment. Tell me about the pants that made you feel like yourself again in your own way. And if you want to continue this journey with me, a journey back to confidence, to elegance, to the presence that comes only with time, then follow Tap the Heart, or share this video with another woman you care about. Someone you believe deserves to feel beautiful again in her own quiet, gentle, and very real way.